All right, let's take a look at some examples of bad photography and good photography. And bad post-production versus good post-production. And this is an example of bad post-production right here, because it's got that HDR look right here. Doesn't have any kind of white balance, and the sky looks pretty ridiculous. Not only that, but I don't know where the cameraman was at, but looks like he was up here where the up here where the umbrella is at. I mean, that's an absolute joke. Looks terrible. The whole image looks just so wrong. That's a shame because it's actually a nice piece of property too. But you know, here's the pool deck. Look at how low the jacuzzi is. That means the guy has to be up like right here. I don't know if he was standing on something to get this shot or how he did it, but it looks terrible. Here's an example of why you should always just remove things from the image. Right? Just remove things that need to be removed, like pool cleaners. Remove pool cleaners and photographers that look like George Costanza, you know? Always remove George Costanza from the photo. Don't leave George in the photo. And don't do bad sky replacements either. Looks like they used the channels to extract the sky and replace it with some blue cloudy skies or something. Doesn't look very good though, because we've got those sharp jagged lines, and some of the branches are actually disappearing. So if you're going to do a sky replacement, then do a good job of it, you know? Don't do stuff that doesn't look natural. Don't do stuff that looks, don't do stuff that looks artificial. Do everything that looks natural. If it doesn't look natural and real, then I would say to avoid it, you know, just as a general rule. But this image is really soft as well. I mean, you can see just how soft it is zooming in. Doesn't look like they applied any kind of sharpen pass to it. Always sharpen your images, you know, and always remove things that are just sticking out from the side. Take a few minutes and just manually remove things, or just use automatic tools like spot healing brush or whatever, you know. If it takes 2 or 3 minutes, it's not that big of a deal. But, you know, for something that's sticking out that much, just remove it, you know. This is a nice property, but it looks like garbage with the editing. The outside view looks really bad. It's kind of got that HDR look as well. I don't know what they did to bring in the outside view, but it looks like they were brushing the outside view in, you know, maybe brushing it in. I'm sure it's obvious that they created some paths and did some path selection creation, right? They made some selections, made some paths, brought it in, but looking at the window frames themselves, they're like really dark. And I don't know what's going on here. I know it's low resolution, but the chains are like glowing. It just looks really odd. You know, and always look out for the brightness and overexposed areas of the floor. Make sure you tame that and take those down. Same with the tables and the glass. This area over here, just take the brightness down a little bit. I know this is in New York, so I'm sure this is a pretty expensive property, but it doesn't look very good with the editing. It's kind of dark. And it's not gloomy, but it just doesn't have a lot of life to it. Doesn't have a lot of life to it. Neither does this. I don't know what's going on here. I feel like this is more of a haunted house than you know, real estate that's for sale. This one is an absolute joke. I have no idea what's going on here with the editing. Looks like they took a bunch of JPEGs and tried to just sloppily throw them together. Outside view looks terrible. I mean, you can barely see the ocean. The ocean or the lake is just gray. Everything is gray in this image. It has no life to it. And of course we left the cameraman and the tripod and the camera right here in the mirror, in the photo. Always remove that. I know this is a really low resolution image, but I wanted to show this one to you because they just used the flash for the interior. Don't do that. That looks really bad. The purpose of the flash most of the time is going to be to take down the overexposed areas of the window frames, right? You should be using a non-flash image as your base most of the time. Do not use your flash as the base, right? Because it'll result in this, which just looks terrible. You're going to have a flash illuminating the entire scene. It's not professional. It's not a good look. And always remove, telephone wires, telephone poles, transformers, lights outside, cars, if possible. If it's a car parked in the driveway, don't worry about it. But if it's something off in the distance that is easily removable, take a minute or two and just try to remove it. But definitely do not do this. This looks horrible. Absolutely terrible. And it looks like with this one, we've kind of got that HDR look again. And it looks like they did a sky replacement with this, but it just looks completely fake. It looks like something a freshman in high school was just messing around in Photoshop with. They had some time to kill and they went on Google and looked up a front shot, and they looked up a sky replacement tutorial and went to town. They just went to town with this. It looks completely fake. Take the yellows down, take the reds down. Don't leave things that are this oversaturated. Don't just leave it there like that. And always remove stuff that doesn't need to be there, like this little red flag back there. Again, that's a low resolution image, I know, but this one gets first place for oversaturation. HDR look right here. That's there's no real color balance. There's no white balance going on here. Everything is just orange and yellow on the front. That's not a good look. You don't want to do that. But I still see photography companies doing this stuff all the time. I don't know who's paying them for this service. I don't get it. Why is the cameraman standing in the street to get this shot? This looks terrible. More than likely he's probably not even using a DSLR. I don't know what kind of camera this is, but he's definitely not using a 14 to 24 millimeter lens as he should be. And it just looks awful. This is a really soft image. This wasn't sharpened. Not only that, but the camera is like 2.5 feet above the countertop. As a general rule, countertops and bars, things in the kitchen, bathroom, countertops, things like that, you're going to be like maybe usually like 8 inches above that, something like that. But this guy is probably, I don't even know. I mean, he's well above the faucet. It looks like he's probably somewhere up here. The problem that happens when you're either too far up or too far down, even if you're level and stable, the image looks like it's pointing up or pointing down. And that's what this image looks like. It looks like he's up here and it's pointing down, right? It looks like the camera is tilted down and it's not level, right? Even if it is level, it doesn't look like that in this photo. So definitely avoid that. Avoid not doing a proper white balance of your images. Don't leave things looking like this, I mean, this has very little editing done to it. It's easy to avoid that stuff. It's easy to avoid this. It's easy to avoid this stuff. You know, be careful if you're going to use an outside view, an outside raw image that has a flash. Be careful of it, because the flash is probably going to be bouncing off of the ceiling. So you need to remove that, or use a non-flash image and bring that in to brush over that area. Avoid this type of look. Whoever edited this photo, they obviously, you know, they made their selections and their paths, right? And all that good stuff. But what they didn't do is they included the outside view where these selections are at, right? And that's fine. But what they did not do is include what's not outside. What they didn't do is include the stuff that's outside, like this. You can see how this area right here and in here, all this is darker than this because it's outside, and they didn't include this area in their selection. So what we end up with is browns and blacks over here, and then it's lighter over here, and it has terrible inconsistency, right? It's really bad editing, and it's pretty easy to avoid if you understand these problems, you know, and just how to avoid them. So if you're looking for post-production training, go check out my course on luxury real estate, Photoshop for luxury real estate. You know, I go through the very basics of things that you need to avoid and things that you need to do to get high quality and image consistency every single time, right? Like they did all that, and then they forgot to do that. And it looks like they kind of painted this area in over here, and it's really black. And then this over here is like really light, you know? This is the simple kind of stuff that I really emphasize, you know? You know, they left this area way too bright. Don't have dark images outside. You want the whole image itself to be bright and colorful and happy and clean and good consistency. But you know, that can be said for the interiors, but the exteriors are just as important, right? You don't want to have dark, gloomy, you know, exteriors. Stuff is so easy to avoid. It's kind of got that HDR look. You know, in like 2008, 2009, this would be okay. But in 2023, 2024, this is totally unacceptable. You know, if people are putting out this quality of work for their clients, then their homes are not being shown in the best light. Their homes look like garbage, and that's not good because these are high-end luxury real estate properties, you know. And I mean, it looks radioactive outside. Looks radioactive inside. It's got that HDR look. We've got the flash bouncing off of the ceiling here. Just avoid that stuff, you know. If you need to know how to edit properly, how to achieve good color balance, white balance, all that stuff, go check out my course. It's not expensive. My goal is to show people how to edit. How to edit, and not just edit and use the tools available in Photoshop and understand the workflow. It's to show people how to avoid image inconsistencies, you know, things like that, right? You know, they did all this, they forgot that huge spot right there. Go over the images with a fine-tooth comb after you're done editing them, right? What did you miss? What needs to be done? Are you ticking off all the boxes? Do the colors look good? How's the contrast, right? Do the outside images, outside views look good? Is there flash bouncing off of big areas, you know? Come in here. You know, we're at the period where cameras are at 4K, 6K, 8K. You know, I mean, you've got so much resolution. Obviously, these are low-res images as examples, but you know, as in general, we can go in here pixel by pixel in Photoshop and really meticulously comb through these images at this point, you know. And our machines are fast enough and powerful enough to do that with ease now, you know. And when it comes to woods, make sure that they've got really good contrast. Make sure that they're not flat and dull looking, you know. Make sure that they pop. Wood in general is a very important material that can really help to bring out the image itself and the room that is being photographed, And again, don't have the camera high up. You need to understand where the the camera needs to be placed. It's not just about the angle and the composition and the framing. It's the height of the camera that can really dictate how those things come together. So don't have it almost up here hitting the ceiling. I mean, if he goes any further, I feel like we're a few inches from hitting our heads on the ceiling. It doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. This has got that HDR look. I mean, the whole image is just like radiating right now. It's like nuclear or something, like nuclear radioactive waste. I mean, look at the back of the couch here. This is a white couch. Look at these couches over here. Look at the edge or the cover of the couch over here. This is white. The back of this couch should not be black and brown. And I don't know if these are stains. I doubt it. These look like they're artifacts from the editing or something. I'm not sure. But anyways, just come in there and clean that up. Remove those spots. It's, oh man, there's just so much going on here. I can see this big, like brush spot where they were brushing it out. Like it looks like they made their selection and brought in the outside view and then decided to paint a little bit of it out with like a soft brush or something, And that's what that kind of looks like to me. But this is really bad. Again, it's completely soft. It doesn't look like it's been sharpened. It's really inconsistent, And this image right here, I don't even know what to say about this one. This looks like we're in New Jersey at some crime scene. This one makes me feel very scared. It doesn't make me feel warm and invited. I can tell you that right now. This is another major issue that I see with the height of the camera itself. The height of the camera is so crucial, and people mess this up all the time. So we've got we've got the pool deck right here, and then we've got this staircase that goes down here into this lower area where this tree is planted at. But the photographer decided to go down here in the lower area, and then raise the camera up enough to get the view of the house and stuff. But it looks like the camera is about 1.5 feet off the ground. I mean, this is like where the camera view is at, and that's terrible. The camera view should have been probably up here, right? The guy should have figured out somewhere to stand on this pool ledge. Maybe he couldn't have, maybe it just wasn't physically possible. I don't know, but maybe he should have figured out how to raise that camera up high enough and just get that shot. I don't know, because this is not acceptable. If this is the shot that he felt was the best, then he needs to rethink his priorities, because he should have gotten another angle on the deck itself. He should be up here somewhere on the pool deck, not down there. He's down there in the swamp, and he's got to get out of that swamp. This one doesn't look terrible. The sky, it looks like they kind of brushed that in, and that's where you'll get that HDR look, which isn't good. But I mean, overall, it's not a bad image. But there's probably like 3 or 4 other angles that they could have gotten for this front driveway garage shot. I don't know. It's not very interesting to look at, to be honest, though. This image, the editing itself doesn't look like it's terrible. It's fairly clean and consistent with the sky, the contrast, the brightness overall, things like that. But again, this is an absolute joke. The cameraman, look at how high up the camera is. The camera looks like it's about right here. I mean, if this tree and this tree are the same height, then the cameraman is like up here or something. I mean, I don't know how he's getting this shot. If he went up any further, it looks like it would have been a drone shot or something. I mean, the cameraman should have been standing like, I would have tried to stand like right here and get this in view, exclude that tree, and manage to get this, right? Like he should have focused on like this right here or something. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I'm just guessing. But this is an absolute joke. I mean, look at how much is of the image is gone just because of that tree itself, you know? And I just can't get over where it's positioned, you know? I mean, the fact that he's up here on the second floor somehow. I don't know how he got this shot. Maybe it was a crane shot. Who knows? I don't want to analyze it anymore because it's making my brain hurt. This, some of these quote unquote photography companies call themselves and advertise themselves to be professionals. This is not professional. I mean, you could have given your iPhone to your mom and she could have walked out into the street and taken a better front shot than this. You know, I mean, the image is completely soft. I don't know if there was any actual editing going on here. This looks like it's an image from 2006. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like something that was taken with a Canon from 2007, 2008 or something like that, you know? And always come in there and just clean up these little details, right? I mean, how hard is it to, I mean, that looks like garbage, those little edits that I just made, but it still looks infinitely better than that. Remove the cracks, remove the leaves, things like that. Come in here and clean up the leaves. You know, find some way to get rid of this big paint smudge on the front of the garage door, right? The whole idea of why these people are paying photography companies is to get these properties listed and sold, right? They don't want to have an image that doesn't look good. They want it to look its best. And in post-production, your job, that's what you're there to do, is to make, you know, sometimes their crappy properties look good, you know? That's kind of our job as editors and post-production artists. Sometimes the photographer will do his job and that property itself will still just look like garbage, you know? And you have to make something that looks like junk and you got to turn it into gold, you know? If you can do that, the clients will keep coming back and, you know, it just, you know, the cycle will continue, right? And it's just in everyone's interest. But, you know, putting out images for your clients that look like this is in nobody's interest. You know, it's got that HDR look again. The yellows aren't balanced or anything like that, you know. It just looks terrible. I mean, these are really rough examples right here. Going through these. Again, just tone down the brightness and the reflections on woods and things like that. Looks like they did a decent job making the paths and the selections and bringing in the outside, right? But if you look a little bit closer, you'll see how it has that overexposed like light bleed, right? It's like bleeding in. And it also has, it looks like they used the brush tool to, I don't know, bring it in. They were just like painting it in, something like that. Maybe they made their selections and they brought all the windows in and they were like, oh, it's still not enough. I'll brush it in. Be very careful with that because you'll get that kind of look and it looks terrible. You don't want to have it light and good looking down here and then completely dark up there, right? So just be really careful about that. This image isn't terrible, but it needs a color balance, a white balance, and it needs some contrast. And combining the images, compositing them together needed to be done in a much more professional manner as well. But I think this is, these last two are like really rough. That's about as bad a result as I think I could show you right there. I mean, we're just painting, literally just brushing it in. I don't think they definitely didn't make any selections or create any paths using the pen tool or anything like that. They just came in here and they probably just took two images, one that was bright and then one that was dark. And they just painted in the dark one so that they can get some outside view. And it looks like it's like glowing, right? It's got that like weird glow to it, like heavenly glow, but it's not heavenly. It just looks like garbage, you know? It's terrible. But again, I still see this stuff all the time, you know? People are buying these photos. They're buying these products and services from these quote unquote photographers. They're not photographers. They don't know how to take decent images. They don't understand the proper workflow. And they don't understand post-production. They don't understand how to edit. You know, I mean, everything outside is like radioactive. Again, the interior is radioactive. There's no white balance here. There's really no attention to detail. And that's what I really stress in my course, is how to achieve clean, consistent images. That's what it's really all about, right? Showing you how to tick off all the boxes, the brightness, the contrast, sharpening the images, the color balance, compositing the images together to create something that's balanced. This is not balanced. This is what you want to avoid, right? So if you're in need of sharpening up your post-production, your editing skills, your editing game, maybe you're a photographer that wants to start learning how to edit photos, then go check out my course. It's not expensive. It's very cheap. There's over 7 hours of examples. There's like 22 individual rooms that I edit from beginning to end. I take you through my entire workflow, and I show you how to avoid all of this and how to get clean, consistent images every single time. But I think now is the time that I need to cleanse my palette and look at some good images as examples. Here's some images that I edited not long ago. And by no means are these perfect, you know. I usually end up doing like 5 or 6 properties every single day, sometimes even on the weekends. So time management and budgeting the time properly is my most important thing, because I have to get them all out by a certain time every single day. So as we go through these, you may see a handful of things that you can be critical about, but overall they're very clean and they're consistent, right? As we go through these, you'll see that the contrast is the same, the brightness is the same, the color balance and how sharp and crisp the images are is almost identical. I go for a similar look with each of my images as we can go through these, right? So like this is not a very complex image to edit, but it's very bright and it's clean and it has a lot of contrast. There's just enough saturation, right? You don't want to overdo it with saturation, and that's what a lot of those bad examples suffer from. Right, so everybody will want the ocean to be blue, so they'll just come in here and be like, "Oh, I want more blue skies," and then they just overdo it. Right? You need to find that balance and know when you should not push that threshold. You need to know when to stop. That's a very important aspect that a lot of post-production artists and editors don't understand. For me, I edit the image until there's nothing left to do. I aim for consistency each time, right? What else can I do to this image? That's what I ask myself each time. Have I achieved and ticked off all the boxes that need to be ticked off, right? And most of the time, I end up coming very close to 100%. Not every single time. But overall, these images look great. They're very clean, right? This is why I stress and emphasize not having dark areas over here, right? Over here, and then having the interior bright or something like that, you know, or vice versa, right? You want everything to be clean and consistent. Looking at this image right here, everything is well balanced. There's a balance to all of this. There's a balance to this, right? What needs contrast? What needs less contrast? What needs more brightness? What needs more saturation or less saturation? You know, you have to find that delicate balance, and you have to develop the eye and understanding on how to achieve that. You know, I've been doing this for 13 years. I don't know if I said it before, but my goal is not. My goal primarily is to help people understand how to achieve this stuff, because I see really bad work being put out there, and advertised as professional work, when it's really not. The stuff isn't complex. It's actually very simple. The photography workflow is simple. The editing workflow, while it may seem daunting, but it's manageable and it's completely doable once you understand how to do things. Understanding and being technically proficient in Photoshop is like the first big hurdle, in order to achieve good results. The biggest hurdle is developing that eye and attention to detail of what looks good, right? What looks crisp. What you want, eye candy, right? You want to sell these homes. That's why your clients are coming to you. They're not coming to you to pat you on the back and say, "Hey, I'd like to pay you money for a subpar product." They want to sell that multi-million-dollar home in a very short amount of time. That's where you come in. That's where your photographer comes in. That's where the teamwork comes in, right? And like I said, sometimes you'll get to you'll think everything is done, but due to those time constraints, you won't see certain things until maybe you come back a couple months later. Like this property was done a couple months back, and I had to really rush on this particular day, and the images still came out great, but there were certain things that did not. My eye did not catch. Like, I didn't catch the basketball hoop. I didn't catch this wire coming down here, and that's okay. I can almost guarantee you that the homeowner, the agent, they don't notice that. But me, as an editor, I notice that. And when I come back and I see that, I say, "Oh crap, that's a big no-no." It's not that big of a deal. It's not like I received some sort of criticism for that. I'm very critical of my own work because I have standards of the quality that I want to achieve, right? And these images are decent, right? They're well balanced. You can sit here and look at these and say, "Oh, hey, I disagree. I think this left-hand side could be a little bit darker, or this right-hand side up over here could use a little bit less saturation, and you could have brought in the woods on this cabinet over here," or a few things like that. But what you can't say is that they don't have a good balance, because they do. They do have a good balance. And this particular property is actually going to be a part of another course that I'm doing right now that might be up by the time you're watching this, called, this is going to be part of a speed editing course where I edit an entire property in 2.5 hours. These images right here are actually from that. And this was a very difficult property to edit. Very difficult property to edit, not because of how time consuming it was to create all the paths and selections and bring in the outside and combine and composite all the raw images together. The main thing with this particular property was the white balance, the neutralization of all the colors, and the overall contrast. It was very difficult to achieve with this property right here. But I was able to get it done in about 2.5 hours from start to finish. I think there's like 16 images total. And it was not easy, because this was a very tedious and time-consuming property to edit. But I think they came out great. The weather conditions were not completely ideal, but I think they look solid. Coming back and looking at them now, I think they look solid. Especially these nighttime dusk sunset shots. I think they're quite beautiful, actually. And that's what you really want to highlight, especially if you're dealing with high-end luxury properties, which is what my first course is about, Photoshop for luxury real estate. It's about highlighting the beauty of those properties, right? It's not going to be difficult to sell these and put these on the market and find a home buyer for these. These are properties that people want to acquire. I mean, these are very, very nice properties. And again, having that good photography workflow, having the good post-production and editing workflow down is what's going to help sell this stuff, And that's what I really stress in my course. I emphasize time management and being able to get a high quality and consistent image, you know? Now, compare this stuff to the bad examples that we just looked at. And I mean, these are infinitely better in every possible way. You know, we use a decent camera. These were captured with the Nikon D750. There's a reason that I love that camera, and it's because of the raw data that those images contain and the color balance and the contrast that they offer. As an editor, you need to have a consistent, high quality camera that you can depend on when your photographers send you images for the day to edit. We've tried we've tried other Nikons, we've tried Canons, and they don't offer the same color balance when it comes to the editing workflow that I need for my job to get it done. So having the right color balance and, all the stuff in post-production, the right camera itself, the right photography workflow, there's so many working parts. But once you really start to develop the eye, and understanding of the technical aspects, you can really start to shine and bring everything together. And that's when your game is really going to start to rise and you're really going to start to excel as a professional, and that's really what it's all about.